My loves, and welcome to another episode of the Lux and Leverage podcast. Your host here, Michelle Hext. Guys, I am sharing some behind the scenes this week because last week was a little bit strategic, I think, and I don't know, the views were down. So maybe you just want more behind the scenes. Let me know. Come over to my Insta and let me know. Anyway, I have to share what's going on in my world this last few days. I last year I created a 10-day program called Legacy, and it was honestly some of my best work. I really loved creating that program. It's a 10-day audio program with homework, and it was supported by a signal group. So every day people would show up with their homework, getting feedback, also just asking, is this a good idea? Essentially, I was mentoring them inside the Signal channel. And once I had created Legacy, I decided I would create another 10-day program called Influence. And Influence was about showing up with authority and integrity and authenticity online. It wasn't about go on this platform and chase the algorithm. It was really about making sure that they were grounded in who they were and what their true message was, and understanding that they actually got to show up how they wanted to, and they actually get to make the rules about how they show up online. And so I'd created those two programs, and it's one of these these programs are I designed them in a way where I know people will repeat the programs. It's something that you would do over and over again. So, for example, when you're getting ready to level up, when you're getting ready to pivot, or that you want change in your business, you would take yourself through Legacy just because it's going to help you really tap into what is your most elevated, expanded business from here on in. And I teach you about the principles of building a legacy brand. So anytime you want to level up, anytime you're feeling a little bit confused about your business, you get to go in there and redo that course. And influence is the same. You know, as we evolve, our message shifts as well. And so sometimes we can get a little bit stuck between identity, stuck between our messaging, and we're not really clear to how to articulate what we want to talk about now because we've created so much shift. And so that's designed for that. And when I created those products last year, I put Legacy up and it was selling on my website. And I created a bonus. It's not available now as a free thing, but back then it was like if you purchase Legacy, I would give you Influence as a bonus. And I thought, I better get in there and actually create it. And I actually had one of the ladies in there, is Influence ready to go yet? I'm like, no, it was on my list for next month, but I'm going to get in there and do it. And so yesterday I was inside my Thrive cart and creating the program. The program was already created, but I actually hadn't put it onto the new dashboard. So I got in there and I rolled up my sleeves and got the program up there, created the new shopping cart, did all the bits and pieces. Now, keep in mind that I have not had to do any of this stuff for months and months and months and months. Months. And this was part of what I used to do. I used to create courses a lot of the time, and I miss the creativity and the spark that I feel when I'm creating. Now, I'm not going to go back to creating a million courses. Just not That's not my journey anymore. But I realize that what I really want to do is create one called Monetized, which is essentially the podcast millionaire methodology. So there are going to be people out there who can't afford the podcast millionaire. And it's like, well, let me talk them through the process so that they can go and do this themselves. And so this morning I woke up and I was like a dog with a bone. It was like, this idea is not going away. I feel like I really want to do this. What is it going to look like? Because This is not a course that's going to tell you how to set up a podcast. It's not a course that's going to tell you, the types of content you should be creating. It's none of those things. It's basically this model that I use to help my clients build audiences of millions so that making millions is effortless, so that their podcast can become their marketing strategy. So they don't need to worry about a million different things. Going all in on your podcast, growing it, and making money, not just from streaming revenue. I talk about the monetization process, but also, from sales in your business. That's why the podcast millionaire has been built, because people are over, the low engagement, low traction that they get on social media these days, especially if you're trying to operate organically. And so I knew it was a different angle. I knew it wasn't like anything out there that's been created before. And I was also mindful that I wanted to keep the same format. So the format for legacy and for influence is every day an audio lesson drops, and there is also homework. And then you bring that homework into the Signal group, and then I give you feedback. So you get to ask me, all the things like, is this a good idea? Am I on the right track? How could I make this better? Is this what you meant? That sort of thing. So they get to bring all of that into the Signal channel. I love Signal. The reason that I chose Signal was because I don't have any contacts on Signal. Telegram's noisy, messy, all those sorts of things. Not a lot of people are using Signal that I know of anyway. And so I want it to be a really clear, quiet channel for me. And it's up to everybody else what they do from there. But it's a really great way to get tap into this wealth of knowledge and experience and wisdom and all that sort of stuff. So I knew I wanted to keep the same format as that. So I knew I couldn't get too technical and things like that. Not that I was going to show people this is how you set up a podcast or set up your recording studio. It's none of those things. It's really about how we use this as a strategy and how you get that to happen. So this morning I was sitting down trying to map out the 10 days or the syllabus essentially. And I was sitting there and it was really um, challenging because there were many things that I wanted to talk about, but there were also many things that just didn't belong in there. And it took me quite a few hours to just refine the content so that I feel like it's going to be so, so valuable. And it's also going to give them the things that they need to actually do to go out there and make this happen for themselves. And so that's what I've been doing today. So I just finished creating the sales page, setting up all of the back end of Thrive Cart so that the delivery, I've set up voucher codes, I've set up all the things. And all that's left for me to start to do now is record the actual content for the program. And that'll be nice and easy because each day is just very, very simple and needle moving. Like it's designed to give you the exact information that you need and what to do with that information so that you're taking action, so that you're not just learning something and then spending hours learning something and then not actually executing. And so I feel like the syllabus is great. I feel like it's really tight and I'm here for it. So that is what's happening there. Um, so once I finish up here, what am I going to do? I'm going to map out the lesson plan for the first day so that when I wake up in the morning, I can record the audios. So when I recorded the audios for legacy and when I recorded the audios for influence, I woke up in the morning, I had my lesson plan there ready to go, and then I just recorded the audio and I uploaded everything and away we went. And I just love doing that for 2 weeks in a row. Monday through Friday, I would just record, get it up, and then deal with the homework that came in. It was run live the first time in terms of it was a brand new course, so the content dropped in Signal. It wasn't on a dashboard. but now they get to access it on the dashboard and bring the content in so that it's evergreen, which is always a smart move. And what I love about it, I think I don't know if I said this already or not, but with this course, they pay for it one time, or you pay for it one time, and then you get to repeat it as many times as you want. And that feels like such a so valuable to me because I know over the years there are times when, I've needed to level up or I've wanted to pivot or I've wanted to change something. And just knowing that a program that worked really well for me to help me get clarity or whatever it was available to me. But it was never with the same level of support, right? Because you buy it once, there might be a live component of it, and then you keep access to the content, maybe, and then there's no other live component. And I just know how valuable it is to have a direct line to me, essentially. So that is what that is about. And one of the things, obviously, when you create something like this, you've got to have boundaries, right? So if somebody comes in and they purchase monetized and then they start asking me about stuff that is lying outside of the syllabus, then it's not a free for all. I'm not there just to mentor people on everything all the time. It's not that. It's very specific to the homework. And that's what makes it powerful because you come in for a reason, you get what you need, away you go. And it's fabulous. I love it. All right, so that's what's been happening. What else is happening? I really was struggling with my CLL. If you're new here, I have chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So it's chronic, it's not acute. That means it's slow, slow, slow. And one of the things that happens is I have a flare up. And a flare up just means that my body is fighting an infection that isn't even there. And it just goes on this full assault, trying to put out a fire, and there's no fire. So it just keeps going. And when I don't fully rest and recover, my body doesn't receive the signal, we need to stand down. She's good. And so I was pushing too hard, pushed for too long, took my break over Christmas, came back and I'm like, I'm good to go, but I wasn't quite. And what tends to happen with these flare ups, I understand now, is that when you don't fully recover, then it deepens the flare up. It just gets worse and worse. And that's how I was feeling. And so I actually got on the Zoom call with my PT, Paul, and burst into tears and just said, I feel like I'm failing because I had a week where my step count wasn't there. I missed a gym session and I was still trying to make it work. I was still basically, because I've got a spreadsheet and there are check boxes there. And this is a good part of my personality, but it's a double-edged sword. And that is if I'm accountable, if there's a checklist for me to tick off, you bet I'm going to tick it off. And so there was never any pressure from Paul to get that step count there to do. He's very conscious of, the fact that we need to work with my energy levels. And but it wasn't about him, it was about me. It's like if there's a start line, I'm going to stand on it and I'm going to do my best. And I had to just remove it. So I said to Paul, I'm going to take time off until March, the first week of March. I'll be back then, but I just need to stop. I just need to completely reset because I'm not getting the rest that I need. And it's just because I want to tick the boxes on the fucking spreadsheet. And he's like, I'm on board. I understand. You psycho, basically. He's like, most people I have to really work to get them to do stuff, and you are the hardest person to get to stop. So we were in agreement. Like I'm still mostly doing my steps every day. I'm lifting maybe 3 times a week instead of 4. I'm still taking very good care of myself, but I'm resting more. And so on the weekend, it was a long weekend, and Dave went away on a boys' trip. And so he left early Friday morning for work, and then he was heading away after that. My cleaner came Friday morning. So she gets here about 8, 8:30 in the morning. So while she was here, I went to the gym and then I did the grocery shop. I grabbed a cup of coffee and then I came home. By the time I got home, she was gone. And then I basically just decided I'm not going anywhere. So Dave didn't come home till Monday afternoon, I think it was. So I essentially had 4 days where I didn't do much. I think I walked maybe 1 or 2 days, but I stayed offline and I just rested. So I dozed off on the couch a lot. I never let myself do that. Like I fight it all the fucking time when I shouldn't. And so by the time Tuesday morning came around, it was like I felt fully recharged. I needed a mental reset. I needed a physical reset. I needed to unplug from everything. I needed to remove all commitment. So my swimming lessons, I cancelled those. I also had a concert that I was going to go to. I bought tickets to that. And I just knew that trying to get somewhere into the city and it doesn't start till late and it was on a weeknight, I just knew that was going to set me back so far. And as annoying as it was, it felt like a good decision. So I gave those tickets to my son and he said, just let me know if you change your mind. I'm like, no, I need this off the table. Go find someone and go have a good time. I'm not going to have regrets. And I don't have regrets. It was the right decision. And so now I'm feeling really good. And it's no shock to me that now that I'm feeling recharged and the pressure is off, self-imposed pressure, that my creative flow has come back. I haven't felt any desire to create anything for a long time other than doing the podcast, which is also obviously the YouTube weekly YouTube video. I just have not had any compulsion. Like normally I love to write, haven't felt like writing. My business is set up that I don't have to do any of those things anymore, which is great. But I also really miss being creative. And so, just a reminder that when we really rest and recharge and we unplug, we really create space for ideas. And I've been feeling good ever since. I woke up this morning and it's like I could go on my big long walk this morning, but I'm not feeling as recharged as I was on Monday or on Tuesday. So I'm not going to go today. Like it's not life or death. Nobody's going to die if I don't walk today. Do you know what I mean? So I've just got to, it's a constant battle for me with myself to just slow down. But I know that the only way I get my immune system to shut off, to stand down, is to do that, is to just stop and stop stressing about the fact that I've stopped. So even on the days when I was working with Paul and I'd take breaks because I needed them and he was fine. He was like, yeah, take whatever days you need. It's not, we're not going to go and stand on stage or anything like that. So take your time. But I was stressed about it. I was annoyed at myself. That was like, come on, just go do it. Like, just why can't you just do it? And I know why, but it's this, yeah, ridiculous internal battle that I have with myself. But I can't afford to be a dumbass because that one cost me a long time of just operating on empty and pushing shit uphill because I just had nothing in the tank. And I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back there. I just like the way I feel when my brain is clear and when I feel rested and all those sorts of things. So even though my business is built this way for me to have that time, I don't always use it well. I use it in I use it to freak out that I don't have a lot to do or whatever, right? I'm definitely better at this than I once was, but it's still a work in progress. It is my biggest work in progress. And the last, having that long weekend, taking 4 days off, it was so good. You know, my business was still running, my ads were happening, my marketing lady was checking in on the ads, my salesperson was ready to go, my COO was still ready to go. So I don't actually need to be there doing that stuff. I did my last inner circle call on the Thursday. Everybody's cool with me taking time off. In between the calls is very quiet. My people are very self-sufficient. And so there was no need for me to keep working. But in the past, I would have kept going anyway, just because what else am I going to do, sort of thing. Anyway, so that leads me to my next little bit of behind the scenes. I may have shared this with you, but I don't know for sure if I did or not. But I have been, oh my God, trying to learn French for off and on for a long time. And I just keep dropping the ball with it. I find language very fucking difficult. I find it very difficult. I can, like, I've got textbooks, I can read them and I can write sentences and understand them. I can do that okay. Um, but, and even speaking it, like, I've used apps where, you have to repeat the phrase and then it corrects your pronunciation if it's wrong and all that sort of stuff. So that's not so bad. But actually hearing somebody speak to me and me understanding what the fuck they're saying, for me to be able to answer without like my brain just going, no, like it just, I find it really challenging. I am a very intelligent woman. I have a like an IQ of like 140 something. I think it's like 144. And so I'm a smart lady, and like, obviously with an IQ like that, pattern recognition and all those sorts of things, problem solving, foreseeing problems, that's my wheelhouse. But for some reason, language, it's killing me. So anyway, I knew I need to fill my days with things that interest me outside of my business because otherwise I'm going to go insane. And it can't all be physical. So I can't just swim every day or, I can't do that anymore because my body doesn't thrive in that state anymore, even if my mind does. And so I thought, I'm going to have another crack. And I'm going to have a look at courses. And you know what happens when you start to search anything, suddenly your feeds are filled with different businesses, right? And one came across my Instagram and it was a French immersion hosted in my hometown of Melbourne in the CBD. And one of the things that I had been promising myself is that I would spend more time in my city, right? It's like 10 kilometers away. It's so close. I think it's like less than that actually. So I'm so close to the city and it's a beautiful city. I love being in our city. I always feel so alive, but I just never go there. And so I thought I'm going to like give myself a reason to go into the city. So I found this French course and it's an immersion. So there are no workbooks. The whole point is to get there and learn and speak. And so we go on these little excursions. So I don't think there's an excursion every week, but they'll take us to a French cafe where we have to order in French or go to an art gallery that is something French related to learn. And I thought, wow, this is a different way. It feels a little overwhelming because people are going to be speaking to me, like, and I'm going to have to fucking understand it and speak back. But that's why I'm going. And so I'm really excited about it. I'm actually really excited about it. And it's up the end of Melbourne that I really love, the Paris end, for those of you who know. And I'm so excited. So I'm going to be doing that every Monday. So I'll have an excuse to get dressed up and go and enjoy my city. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. And I feel like last year, if you've been listening to this podcast for a little while, you heard me talking about I made some decisions to do a couple of things differently in my life, and it produced wildly different outcomes that were really good. And so this is more of that. This is more of saying, well, if I had online tutors like face-to-face, private online lessons, I went to an in-person French lessons years ago. I remember having to drive like 90 minutes to get there and I just fell behind. I just couldn't understand what the fuck was happening and then it just freaked me out, so I stopped going. And this time I've signed up to like just pretend I don't know anything, pretend I don't even know how to say bonjour, right? And so I'm starting at the very lowest entry level. So that feels really good to me. And then when you're in person, you can't hide, right? So she's going to see where I'm struggling and all that sort of stuff. Who knows? Maybe this way of learning is going to be completely different for me. But I have done in person before, but that was very textbook heavy as well. So let's just see how we go. Let's just see if this is the way that I get to learn. And I'm excited to stay enrolled for, well, the entire year because I want to become fluent. This is something that's been on my fucking list since I did my first trip to Paris, 2009, and I wanted to learn before I went, and it didn't happen. And so I'm determined. I'm determined to do more with my days now that I have the time. And if I don't fill my days, as I say, with things that interest me, then I'm going to go back to old habits or my brain's going to get rusty. And I don't want that. I like to feel like I'm growing. I grew so much in my business over the last 12 months. My identity has shifted so much. I feel like I've said it a million times. I feel like a completely different woman. My capacity for everything is so much bigger than it ever was. And that came from doing things differently and challenging myself to get out of old ways of doing things. And it paid dividends. So take whatever you will from all of that. But I do feel like $1 million right now, and I feel very happy about that. And just, I guess, make this your reminder of a couple of things, right? One is when we try to force something, when we're trying to push something, when we're too involved in something, we usually end up with the opposite result to what it is that we actually want, right? We create pressure that isn't necessarily good pressure. And so when we unplug, we sometimes, 4 days felt like 6 weeks for me. When I took 2 weeks off over Christmas, it felt like 6 months. Like if you're used to working and you're used to being on, even a whole day where you just unplug, where you wake up in the morning and you decide ahead of time, I'm not even going into my office today. Today I am off. Nothing business related. I'm away from office. And watch what happens. We create space for ideas, for creativity, for inspiration, all of the things that we don't have when we're, pushing, pushing, pushing. So that's that. And the other thing is that if you are somebody who is a chronic overworker, like I tend to be, not anymore, I'm changing it. We have to create a life that's exciting and rich. It doesn't have to be exciting, but rich and meaningful outside of our business, because otherwise it's just going to keep sucking us back in. And that was definitely true for me. And so now I am, my role now is COO and founder and visionary, coming up with these ideas, getting in and uploading lessons to a dashboard. That's not my job anymore. But I wanted to get it done and I enjoyed doing it. It doesn't mean I'm going to keep doing it. That's past now. But this course I want to get up. It feels inspired to me. It makes sense to my business right now because the podcast millionaire is, my business right now until I have my other launch in March. And so yeah, it makes sense in that. So I am looking at it from this CEO perspective, founder perspective, visionary perspective. Like, where does this fit? Is this necessary? Am I just looking for something for me to do? How do we get to work this in? So even as I was in there creating it, I even reached out to my COO and said, take this to our salesperson and check if or where she wants to use this. It can be a gift for showing up to the sales calls to improve our show up rate. It can be a bonus. Like think about if and when she wants to use it, how she wants to use it. And then I got in touch with my marketing person and said, this is what I'm creating. And I love the simplicity of our current model. I love it. But is there a place for this? I'm just letting you know it's here. Do we want to run another sales campaign where we retarget that audience? Because essentially, that program, while it does teach the methodology, I'm not lying about that. I'm also going to encourage people, just let us do it for you within the Podcast Millionaire. We'll credit you the cost of the program, let us do it, and then it's done. And so it's designed to convert people into the Podcast Millionaire. But I'm not attached, right? I trust my marketing person. She's brilliant. The strategy is rock solid. And I'm going to create it because I want to create it, because I think it will sit well on my website for the traffic that comes through that aren't quite ready for the Podcast Millionaire yet. They want to know a little bit more about it. They want to work with me a little bit. And so it's got a place. Like, it definitely has a place. It feels very strategic. But again, like, I'm not telling my marketing expert how to suck eggs. I'm like, I've got this. This is what it's designed to do. This is what it is. You let me know if and when or how you want to use it. Same with my salesperson. And that's coming at it from a completely different perspective, because normally I'm thinking about how I'm going to sell something before I create it. Because in my mind, I'm always going to the marketing, how we're going to sell this thing. Because if we can't sell it, there's no point even creating it. But this time it feels different. This time it feels like I feel a strong desire to create this. And even if nothing happens, even if nobody wants to use it, even if nobody ever buys it, I'm going to feel fulfilled for the fact that I did it. And that's a need that I want to feel right now. And I feel really good about it. And so I'm going to get in there. I'm going to have a little bit of fun with that. I also know that by the time I've finished creating that course, that I'm going to be like, I don't want to do that again for a long time, if ever, because that's just the cycle, right? And I don't need to. That's the difference now. I actually don't need to, which feels very, very cool. Anyway, I'm dribbling on now. So that is a wrap. But yeah, one, unplug. If you're feeling a little bit stuck, if you're feeling a little bit caged in, if you're feeling a little bit same old, give yourself, create some space, go recharge your batteries, and then make sure that you've got something to do outside of your business. You know, it's different from, not different for me, but it's like my kids are one is 30, the other one is 27. They're out living their lives, right? I'm not still running around after kids anymore. I don't have family that I am connected with. My sister and I chat on Messenger, but we don't really catch up. I haven't been on speaking terms with my mum for 3 years. Don't plan to speak to her again. I haven't had a relationship with my dad for 20 years. I have two other brothers. We're not really that close. And so I have friends, obviously, and get to catch up with them and chat and all the rest of it. But my life is not busy in the way that it used to be busy, in terms of lots of training, in terms of running around after my kids, other than the school stuff, the after school activities, and all those things. My life isn't full like that anymore. And so it's important for me, especially, to find ways to stay plugged into life outside of my business. So I think what happened was, because if you have kids and you're still doing the school run and all that sort of stuff, it's precious time in between school drop off and pick up, right? And it's a really short window because it's interrupted. And half the time, you got to pick your kid up, because if you're my son, you suck something in your ear pretending to be a CIA agent, and then we have to go to the frickin' hospital to get it taken out, or broken an arm or something like that, right? So there's, those times when it's interrupted. And then there are the times where you're just exhausted and you're like, I'm going to take this pocket and I just need to rest or whatever. And so if you're in that stage, that time is really precious, right? That window between school drop off and school pickup, very, very precious. And you're going to milk it and make it worth it. And then, you try to sneak in little bits and pieces without being absent from your kids. And if you are, then there's guilt around that, all that stuff, right? And I was the sort of mother that on the last day of school, when Cody was still doing year 12, I was still making his lunch for him. Like, I'm that mum. I loved being there for my kids and running around after them. I just fucking loved it. Probably in the moment, I had a few moments where I was like, oh my God, you know, so there's that. And so I feel like when they eventually moved out, that was about 2016. And suddenly I had all this time and I wasn't having to do school pickup or drop off. I wasn't having to be there after school. Not that I had to be there after school when they were older, but you know what I'm saying, right? Suddenly that was gone. And so I had free reign because Dave goes to work in the morning, he comes home in the afternoon, and then he's got, man things to do around the shed and stuff like that. And so I had all the time that I wanted to work in my business, and that's what I did. From the minute I opened my eyes to the minute I closed them, I found things to do. And it's not healthy. It's fucking codependent. And so I realized over time that I was using my business as a way to distract me from, some deeper healing and all that stuff. I alluded to stuff with my mum and there's stuff. And so I'd done a lot of healing, but there was still a lot that needed to be done. And that was a good way to avoid all of that. And I'd also been, helping my daughter through her eating disorder and many hospital stays, and my son through his mental health challenges and hospital stays. And like it was a lot, it was a lot. And so it wasn't shocking to me that I wanted to put my time and energy into my business because that is it consumed me. I loved it, loved it. And there was no downside. Like there literally was no downside for me. And, occasionally Dave would be like, hey, I'm here. I'm like, yeah. And I could turn off, I could switch off from business then. But given my own free reign, if I lived on my own, I would have just been in my office all day, every day. Because I had clients from all around the world, I could be having conversations at all times if I wanted to. And so that's no longer the case. And for me, I need to make sure that there are things in my life that interest me, that fulfill me, that keep me stimulated mentally, so that yeah, it's just important, right? It's an important part of my life. And since my with the CLL diagnosis and finally realizing that, okay, I don't have the physical capacity that I used to have to just go and train all day and find things to do. I used to drive around and go visit gyms and try a different gym and go and do a class here and go for a run and go for a swim on the way back. And like my life was training. And when that was taken away, it was like it was a void. And so, yeah, so I am being really good about it. I'm going to go do this French thing. I'm going to find other ways to use my days because I have the time. I have the time. And everyone always says to me, "Oh, you're so busy. You look so busy." And I'm like, "Doing what?" Exactly, because my team's doing everything. I show up for my calls, my group call once a week. I don't take on private clients anymore. So, like, my group is kind of it. And so I'm not as busy as I look. I'm really not. It's been like that for a while. Even when I was busy, I really wasn't as busy as people thought I was. I achieve a lot in a really short amount of time. Anyway, now I'm just banging on about nothing. So I'm going to love you and leave you for this week, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.